Hey, folks, welcome back to the Carl Zahn Show. We appreciate you tolerating our little 2-week vacation here. There was just so much going on. Been doing some radio appearances, stuff like that. So we took a couple weeks off from doing the whatever this is, the podcast. We wanted to see where the election went and all that. I know some of you are probably wondering right off, why am I wearing a Trump shirt and a Harris hat? And I mean, for those of you who didn't know, I am politically non-binary. I swing both ways, and I wanted to be prepped for whichever way this went because it seemed like it was going to be a pretty tight race. And even though there was, I think I mentioned on the show several times that I thought that he could win in a landslide, my confidence of that became less and less and less as time went on. And then, of course, watching the results come in election eve, it really wasn't until about 1 a.m. that it really began to look solid for Trump. So really, really exciting election. Just got a whole bunch of stuff to get into here, so just try to roll through it. This has been kind of a almost biblical series of events that seem to have happened for Donald Trump since the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, it seems to me. So started there with that, truly just a miracle that he was not killed right there. I mean, get a little chunk of your ear taken off by a bullet. It just doesn't get any closer than that. We know it was real, obviously, because unfortunately, a former firefighter behind him, Corey Compantore, who's become famous now, has lost his life in that event. So that was undoubtedly real, but I think Trump's response to it, hence the shirt, was an epic moment. And listening to a lot of people who are on the fence about Donald Trump, that moment seemed to affect a lot of people and change a lot of minds. Moving forward past that, just this kind of series of events, Hurricane Helene and the flooding in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all those places that were just devastated. And then Trump showing up there immediately, tapping on Elon Musk to get Starlink in there for communications, followed by Kamala Harris going there and offering people a $750 loan and a Red Lobster gift card. Talk about bad optics. I think that started to sway things a little bit. And then just these kind of series of events that seem to steer things in Trump's favor more and more. Not the least of which was just discovered actually post-election, so we can't really attribute this to helping Trump over the finish line, but it's been documented that FEMA officials actually had a mandate to not help people with Trump signs in their yards. And it's been documented through FEMA on their communications between FEMA employees and FEMA leadership that they told people, don't stop and help people who have a Trump yard sign. So here you've got all this stuff. And Hurricane Helene, you got to remember the lack of money and Kamala Harris going down there and saying, we'll loan you $750 to people whose whole house just washed away, everything they own. They've got nothing but the clothes on their back. Still lots of people missing, obviously dead. A tragic American event. And I think her reaction to that, and then the FEMA reaction, and then on top of that, them saying that, well, we don't have any money left for FEMA because we've used it all housing illegal immigrants and flying them into swing states to try to upset the vote balance. There's just been so much that happened here that it almost seemed like it had to go this way. And then I think one of the straws that might have broke the camel's back or just gave Trump that final push over the edge, believe it or not, fell to a furry rodent named P-Nut the Squirrel. So everyone, except the studio operator here, everyone in the world knows the P-Nut and the Squirrel story of these people who had taken in this squirrel and it turned him into a pet. And I think they had him 6 or 7 years, and they had a raccoon. And P-Nut had become like a YouTube sensation with millions and millions of views. And then these people had taken the revenue from YouTube and from the P-Nut the Squirrel's fame and used it to create a habitat to take in more animals that were either homeless, needed help, or whatever. So, in case you don't know, somebody dropped a dime on these people for having a wild animal without a permit. You know, squirrel. It's not like they had a Bengal tiger. Somebody dropped a dime, and the state sent in literally a SWAT team of like 12 or 14 armed people with a search warrant, went, dragged this guy and his wife out of the house, made them wait outside, went through the house, kind of ransacked the house, took P-Nut the Squirrel, and I think Freddie the raccoon, don't quote me on the name, took the squirrel and the raccoon and euthanized them. So again, we have illegal immigrants running all over the country, raping and killing our daughters, stealing stuff off the shelves, generally making life miserable, trafficking 300,000, give or take, children, the fentanyl crisis. And where does our government go? Where do they put their resources? In confiscating an unpermitted squirrel. So to all you liberals who are right now in some kind of petting zoo therapy, I heard about some colleges and other places that were actually sending people to petting zoos or doing like pet therapy where you just kind of cuddle with a little furry creature. I just hope that wherever you're doing that, that your therapy creature is permitted, because God forbid some government bureaucrat comes in while you're there sobbing over this horrific Trump victory and yanks your little pet therapy creature out of your arms and euthanizes that, because then you've got like double trauma. Now you've got like Trump once, the end of the world. And I was just sitting here sobbing and, with my pet squirrel or chipmunk or therapy creature, and then the government came in and grabbed it and euthanized it. So I'm hoping for any of you that we're in that kind of pet therapy, still trying to get over the Kamala loss, that, your therapy pet did not get confiscated and euthanized. Interesting thing, talking to my son Dominic a couple of weeks ago, who works in Cincinnati and recently bought a home in Kentucky, and he was going to vote, and he noticed that on the ballot in Kentucky, they were doing a revision to a constitutional thing that goes all the way back to 1891. And this was mostly about voting, but it does go back to well before the 1900s, so 1891. And it said things like every citizen of the United States of the age of 18 years who has resided in the state for 1 year, in the county for 6 months, in the precinct in which he offers to vote 60 days next preceding the election. It's got that 1890s language too. Anyways, the long and short of it was about voting rights and who can vote and who can't vote. And so Kentucky had put an amendment on the ballot to say that illegal immigrants can't vote. You have to be a citizen. Interestingly enough, item 3 of that same proclamation, again, dating back to August 3rd, 1891, people who can't vote, number 3, idiots and insane persons. And that's it. It's just 4 words. Turns out this same document was in a number of different states and has slowly been removed over the years. I just thought it was kind of cute that Kentucky chose to tighten up the illegal citizen thing for voting, but they left the idiots and insane people part in there. As far as I'm concerned, that's fine because I think idiots and insane persons should not be able to vote. I mean, God, if we ever made that a national clause here, that would have eliminated almost every Harris supporter. I mean, with the exception of maybe 5 or 6. So I just love that they had this proclamation in there that idiots and insane people cannot vote. So to all you people out there who haven't offended, and by the way, she lost. All you idiots out there are having such a hard time with this thing and the whole MAGA, Make America Great Again thing. I would say look on the bright side because it's not just Make America Great Again. It's also we're going to make stuff that's not great again, like stealing, walking through the border, entering the country illegally, 300,000 missing children being sex trafficked or trafficked as underage workers, the fentanyl crisis. So it's not just make America great again, but it's also let's make the things that are not great again. I didn't take the time to figure out the acronym for that, and it's a little too confusing to do right now live on the air. So as everyone knows now, Trump is going into, as everyone would expect, balls to the wall. Let's get going. So he's already named Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, who will be the first female Chief of Staff in the history of the country. That's pretty cool. And also one of the first times that Trump will have a smart, intelligent woman in his midst. So that's pretty amazing. Tom Homan is border czar, so that's euphoric and orgasmic all at once. It's like a euphoric orgasm. Tom Homan is border czar. Bring it on. For those of you who don't know, Tom Homan's been in law enforcement his whole life, and total no-nonsense, shoot-from-the-hip dude, does not fool around. He was asked at a 60 Minutes interview about the deportation, and she asked him, she said, is there a way to do this deportation without splitting up families? And he said, yes, we deport the whole family. So just straight up, no nonsense. And again, these people broke the law coming in here illegally. I mean, so for a lot of us, whether you're a Trump supporter or not, doesn't really have anything to do with it. If you have an IQ over 70, it's like, yeah, okay, that's illegal. So the first thing you did coming into our country was break the law. That's pretty good indication that you're not going to have much respect for our laws moving forward, spending, your time here. So again, all these things, Trump has said, of course, on day one, oil production, drill. That will be one of his first things. He's also putting Hulk Hogan in charge of testosterone production, which the country needs desperately. If you've looked around at, a lion's share of our young men in this country, there's, going back to my late dad's generation, the World War II generation versus kind of Gen Z these days. And it's also a scientific fact that testosterone levels have plummeted for reasons unbeknownst to us. So I don't know if that's our food or what we're eating or if it's a cultural thing or just something that happens over time. But, the Democrats love to talk about an existential threat. Well, a generation of men without testosterone is truly an existential threat. Even in vitro fertilization is off the menu at that point. If your sperm has the same potency as Ready Whip. Also, another part, good news for part of the Trump win is the thousands of new blue-collar jobs we can expect building internment camps. This just, I think, I know like different cities were all excited in the past about Amazon moving there and building a warehouse. I think now you'll see a lot of cities vying for hey, bring your internment camp here. We would love the boom in business and the construction and all the blue collar jobs. It sounds ridiculous, but I'm looking at Jake Tapper, who's a regular news guy, and he recently had a very serious conversation with some other loon about Trump is going to build internment camps and all that. So I guess that's real. I guess that's going to happen. So yeah, it's just phenomenal, everything that's going on right now. And the other thing I forgot to mention in the litany of Trump events that kind of brought him Butler, Pennsylvania, the assassination attempt, FEMA in the flood-ravaged states, Trump going there first, getting communication in with Elon Musk, like actually going there and solving problems, versus Kamala Harris going there and offering everybody a Dunkin' Donuts gift card. Just amazing. And for all of you, my liberal friends, and we all have them, who are just losing it completely right now, it's really kind of amazing watching all these people do like the election autopsy. It's kind of like an autopsy on a human where you bring someone in and they got a bullet hole in the middle of their forehead, and then the medical examiner is trying to convince you that he thinks it was a hangnail and a bunion that cost this person their lives. These people, they're blaming George Clooney for writing an op-ed in the New York Times way back and saying Biden has to step aside. They're blaming Nancy Pelosi, which is fine with me because I blame her for practically everything, and why wouldn't you? If her eyes sink any deeper into her skull, they're literally going to have to look at her from the back of her head to look her in the eyes. What a horrific woman, piece of work. Like, she can't be gone soon enough for me. But just all these people picking apart. So Nancy Pelosi is blaming Joe Biden for not stepping aside soon enough. George Clooney for the op-ed piece. Beyonce, I suppose, for not performing at the Harris Waltz, one of the Harris Waltz things. It's kind of amazing to me that they can't take a deep breath and say, okay, so we ran a really dim-witted woman for president. We supplanted Biden with a horrible candidate. Not surprisingly, she chose a horrible vice president. I mean, look, that's what stupid people do. You can't fix stupid, right? So you hire someone stupid to do a job, you can pretty much guarantee the fact that they're gonna do stupid things, and they're gonna bring in stupid people, and they're gonna make stupid decisions. I mean, I've argued for a long time. I don't think Kamala Harris is a very bright person. I just don't. She can't carry a conversation. She famously said on The View, and this might have cost her a lot of votes, when they asked her on The View, this is like a T-ball setting up for her. Is there anything you would do different than Joe Biden in your presidency? And she said, I can't think of anything. And I mean, of course she can't, because she can't think of anything anytime. She can never think of anything, unburdened by what has been. I grew up in a middle-class home. Donald Trump is Hitler. It's really pathetic, but it's equally pathetic watching the post-mortem on this election by these supposedly intelligent people who, no, you ran a terrible candidate. And I mean, this started back with Obama. I remember writing an editorial piece when Hillary Clinton ran and said she went through a whole campaign without answering a single unscripted question. So they would do these town halls and rallies and stuff like that, and they have people in the audience that were plants. So these were people they knew what the question was. And so Hillary Clinton kind of started this trend. Barack Obama continued it. If you look back, you'll see that he ran his whole campaign without answering an unscripted question anywhere in a public setting. Not talking about interviews, I'm talking about public settings, rallies, town halls. And then he chose Joe Biden, the middle-aged white guy, to help him win because Joe's harmless and Everybody loves Joe. So the Democrat Party, this just trail of blatant usury, it's like a political orgy in a Greek bathhouse. I mean, it's so disgusting. And then at the end of it all, they can't figure out what happened. So Obama chooses Joe Biden. Joe Biden chooses Kamala Harris because she's black and she's a woman. Never mind the fact that she is, to quote Tyler Fisher, comedian, a retarded hyena. And then they replaced Biden with her. And now she lost because she didn't have enough time. That Biden didn't step down soon enough. It's so void of any actual thoughtful analysis, and it's just breathtaking. It's really crazy. You ran a horrible candidate. She chose a horrible VP. They have no policies. The policies they do have are hurting working class Americans. Everybody knows that. You can't hide from it. They opened the border. They shut down oil. Everything they did from the first day they took office damaged the country at large and particularly damaged working class people. Trump won in a landslide because it was proper. It's what should have happened. It's karma. Enough people came and said, look, we're not anti-Democrat, but your policies suck. Okay, we don't like your fifth grade science teacher ordering your daughter to get a double mastectomy because she thinks she might be a different gender and not even consulting the parents about it. That's too much. We don't like 300,000 plus minor children getting sex trafficked and trafficked for workers in the United States of America. It's too much. We don't like Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes in the United States of America. And as J.D. Vance brilliantly pointed out to Martha Raddatz, that half human, half Muppet, when she said, no, that's not what happened. They didn't take over the whole city of Springfield, Ohio. It was only a couple of apartment complexes. And J.D. said, rightfully so, he goes, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a couple of apartment complexes taken over by violent Venezuelan gangs with machine guns? And that's okay? So that's why Harris lost. She's a putz. Her vice president was, I don't even know, strange dude. And his wife is like even stranger. Bad choices, bad policies, bad outcomes. You just can't, you can't run and hide from that. That's why she lost. It was too much for even moderate Democrats. We don't like it. It's too far from traditional America. We're not saying everyone has to wear a pilgrim hat and buckle shoes, but this is too far. California telling teachers that they can send a minor child for surgery and not only not have to consult with the parents, but making it illegal to do so. California making it illegal to ask for voter ID for voting. Not that you just can't ask or you shouldn't ask or it's not polite to ask. It's illegal to ask. It's too much. How could the Democrat Party not see this coming? It's stunning. And then on top of it, they spent $1 billion. And she's $20 million in the hole after that. Trump spent $400 million and he's got $36 million left in the bank. It's not about money. The Democrats have gotten so used to thinking they can buy every freaking election and they can bulldoze what average Americans want because they own the media, they own Facebook, they own social media, they own the big corporations, the banks, the credit card companies, the DOJ, the feds. They got so used to thinking they can buy whatever they want that they are shocked into almost physical convulsions. Even I'm having a hard time, as you can tell. So take a deep breath, everybody. Here's some of the awful things that have happened just a few days after Trump becoming president-elect. First female chief of staff appointed. New York City to stop giving debit cards to illegals. U.S. companies bringing production home. Stock market hitting all-time high. Bitcoin hitting an all-time high. The newest migrant caravan is breaking up. Qatar agrees to evict Hamas leaders. Hamas wants an immediate end to the war. Taliban claims to want a new chapter. China wants a peaceful coexistence. Russia is ready to speak to the U.S. The EU wants to buy U.S. gas, not Russia gas. And Ukraine leaders in talks with Trump and Elon. Oh, God, what a nightmare. I'm sorry, I kept it together as long as I could. Try to keep the blue side up. See you next week if the country is still even here.